Joining now, Democratic Senator from Connecticut, Chris Murphy, member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And Senator, let me start with you on the topic of Cuba, obviously very front of mind in the wake of Fidel Castro's death. What's your reaction to that sort of what seemed to be a warning shot from the president-elect?
Well, in general, what petrifies me is the idea that we're about to descend into a world in which we're conducting foreign policy in 140 characters. That might work well for a campaign environment in which you can sort of spark up media coverage with a quick tweet, but that is not how you're going to keep this country safe. And I hope that if he starts attending these briefings on America's role in the world, what he will find is that our entire influence, our entire role in Central and South America is predicated upon this continued thawing of relations with Cuba. It's not just about resetting a relationship with Cuba and recognizing that half a century of isolationism didn't work. It's also about recognizing that the work that we've done in, let's say, places like Guatemala and El Salvador and Nicaragua to try to stem the tide of illegal immigration from those countries into the United States is predicated upon this warming of relationships with the Cuban government, which has opened our ability to talk to others in the region who are very upset about that policy of isolation. So 140 characters can't describe the impact that a new shutdown of relations with Cuba would have on America's broader security interests in Central and South America.
You mentioned the intelligence briefings. I got to say, it's one of the odder details that we've encountered in this transition period. I mean, it just seems to me, if for no other reason than curiosity, if someone said to me tomorrow, hey, you get to listen to intelligence briefings, I would say, yeah, sure, let's just do them every day. I'm curious what folks have to say. You don't have to, you know, you can do with it what you will. What do you make of this sort of doing it twice in 2 weeks while the vice president-elect seems to be doing it every day?
I mean, first, I guess I'm going to take all these reports with a grain of salt. Let's assume that it's true. First, you know, these briefings are not 3-hour briefings, right? It doesn't ruin your day to take in about a half an hour to an hour of intelligence material. And second, what it may suggest is that he is going to outsource a lot of national security decisions to others, which then, I mean, would leave us concerned about some of the names that are being floated for positions like Secretary of State. The two top names have no history, no experience in diplomacy. Our new UN ambassador seems like a pretty smart, thoughtful person, Nikki Haley, but she's never represented the United States abroad. And so if you're not going to attend the intelligence briefings, if you're going to outsource the decisions about U.S. national security, well, then let's make sure that your national security cabinet has people who have spent a good portion of their lifetime making and thinking about these kind of big decisions.
Do you wonder also about the sort of vector of American foreign policy? I mean, in some ways, there were certain things that Vice President or President-elect Donald Trump seemed very clear about it. He clearly seems to want to have a closer coordination with Russia in Syria to essentially support Assad and go after ISIS. That's one item on which he seems clear. Everything else seems a black box, but I wonder from your perch, do you feel like you have a better sense of your Republican colleagues on your committee?
No, I have no idea what Trump's foreign policy is going to be. I think you've described it in previous shows as a black box that at some point will be revealed. You're right that the one thing we think we know is that he wants to cozy up to Russia. But at the same time, Mitt Romney, who apparently is being considered for Secretary of State, said that Russia is the #1 enemy of the United States. He seemed to, during the campaign, try to distance himself from the Iraq War. But today he was celebrating a meeting with David Petraeus, who in many ways is sort of the personification of American strategy of military-first policy in the Middle East. Petraeus is a smart guy, but he's not necessarily someone who's going to come in and flip your paradigm in the Middle East. So I think it's incredibly unclear, and it has our allies right now completely vexed. And my worry is that the consistency won't begin on January 20th, that this administration may be just a series of flip-flops and waverings on foreign policy for 4 years. That would put a lot of Americans and a lot of people across the globe in great jeopardy.
All right, Senator Chris Murphy, thanks for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks.